Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Connor Kelly O'Brien. I am the Executive Director of Scranton Fringe, which is the normal platform for this weekly chat show, Fringe Focus. But tonight, I'm putting on my other hat as the Gallery Director for AFA Gallery here in downtown Scranton. And I am so excited I'm not going to be on camera tonight because it's about the artists and the art, and to make sure I can focus on all the tech things backstage. But the louder I talk, the bigger this circle gets, so we'll see how loud we can go. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I encourage you to comment wherever you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. We will be able to see your comments a few minutes after they come in, if not instantly, and we'll be able to pass them along to the artists, possibly pull them up live. We would love for you to join the conversation. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce a fabulous group of artists. We have 6 out of the 9 graduating seniors from the Keystone College Art Department. They recently unveiled their senior exhibition entitled Becoming at AFA Gallery, which runs through the end of April. You can view it yourself Thursday through Saturday, noon to 6. You also may have seen it on First Friday during its fantastic opening night. We had record turnout, the second largest turnout we've had since the beginning of the pandemic. I want to thank all of our audiences, in person and virtual, who've been so supportive. If you can't get down to see it, as always, we'll be professionally recording it via a virtual video tour, thanks to Dan Kimbrough at Park Multimedia, and that will go live soon. Speaking on that note, we want to apologize. We are a little behind releasing the February and March videos. We'll be doing that early next week, and we'll be sure to post it all across social media. I know there's many out there, a certain person in particular who is very happy to see that. Hello, Easy Harford. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Michael, and everyone else watching. Please, whether you're watching this on the Scranton Fringe Facebook, the AFA Facebook, or the AFA YouTube, please comment below. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Okay, it is without further ado, I'm going to bring on to the virtual stage our 6 out of 9 artists from Becoming. They are, and I hope I don't mess anything up, Kathleen McHugh, Abigail Sweeney, Ruby Haskins, Maya Noble, Lexi Myers, and Serena Malencott. Here we are. Give them a virtual round of applause, these fabulous artists. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I thought that real quick, rapid fire, before we dive in, maybe everyone could introduce themselves, tell us your specific artistic medium, and just a little bit about your work if someone is not familiar. And on my screen, Serena is first, so maybe we'll start there.
Hey, my name is Serena Malencott. I'm 23 from Ringwood, New Jersey, and I work in the medium of glass. My work tends to be very emotional based. I make narratives about how I feel about the universe, and they kind of abide to natural laws and different things that are experienced in the world. This is a photo of me working in the studio.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Lexi, go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lexi Myers. I'm 22, and I'm from Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. I work with graphic design as well as drawing and painting, and I work primarily with watercolor and pen and ink and a little bit of graphite. My work focuses on organic subject matter such as animals and portraiture and the human figure. And here is a piece that was in the student show, and it was part of a book that I created, and just one of the layouts from the book.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Maya, please go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Maya Noble. I live here in Tunkhannock, and I'm a mixed media artist. I do spend a lot of time working in oil and graphite and clay. This is one of my pieces from the show. This is actually a pretty large piece. It's 36 by 48, and it's oil, monochromatic.
Fantastic. Thank you. How about Ruby?
Hello, my name is Ruby Haskins. I am from Towanda, PA. I am 22 years old. My medium is graphic design, and my work is just based around working with the focus of like awareness for animals.
Okay, that's awesome, fantastic, and that was definitely represented in the work that you exhibited at the Coming. Who was the client in those images? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Like the animals?
Yes, wasn't it for a particular animal center nearby, or was that a mock-up concept?
I did a website redesign for Bradford County Humane Society.
Perfect. Very, very nice. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ruby. Let's move on to Abigail. Abigail, go right ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Abigail Sweeney. I'm from Taylor, Pennsylvania. I work primarily in oil paint on paper and wood and hardboard. I work from family photographs. This one here is actually of my great-grandfather and my great-great-aunt. So this was probably taken sometime in the 20s. I just find that concept really interesting, and I just wanted to give a little tribute to my family.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least in this lineup, we have Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I'm 28 from Clark Summit. I work in painting and drawing and graphic design. I usually use color in my work whenever I can to promote a feeling of happiness and positivity. And I usually try to reference plants and flowers. For this show, I actually worked with photography and did some digital prints based on plants, photos of plants, and I did one painting based on plants as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, I know that was really quick and we could spend a whole hour on each of your art forms alone. I want to know, and this is sort of going to be the spark of a bigger conversation that will be amongst the artists themselves. I kind of want to know, what was the process? Well, first of all, I should mention to everyone that you are one more time, especially if they're just tuning in, from Keystone College here in Maplewood, Pennsylvania. You are graduating on May 24th after this rigorous 4-year academic artistic process. We have a comment from Ty Holmes, I showed before, wow, amazing. We also have a comment from Megan McHugh, fabulous. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in so far. But as I was saying, you are about to graduate, and so 4 years of work culminates in this wonderful exhibit, which was truly fantastic. That alone is a huge endeavor normally, and then add on top of it the struggles and trials and tribulations of doing anything under the shadow of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. In another universe, we'd be having this conversation in the gallery, walking around, talking to people live with your work. And while we're thrilled to make it more accessible and for people outside of the area, it's definitely challenging. So my question to all of you, whoever wants to start, whoever kicks off this conversation, what was the process getting the show off the ground? And I'd love to know, in addition, what made it even harder given COVID-19.
I guess I can start. For myself, what made it hard was getting right into the thick of things. Like, I also do a lot of work with clay. And when COVID hit, I had a very specific goal in mind for my show work. And all of a sudden, we had no access. You know, we couldn't work with clay, couldn't work with wheel, you didn't have access to kiln. So it for me, kind of shifted my direction back over to painting. And it was challenging because you get used to working with your classmates, you get used to having the back and forth, and all of a sudden now you're on the computer all the time. And while having your own space and having your own downtime, suddenly it was all the time. And that made it, for me, it made it a little more challenging of that aloneness, because the process is already difficult as it is. I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult art school really is. And then when now you're doing it by yourself and all of your images are on a screen, they're not live, you don't have access to models. It was very challenging. And so by the time we got to the final showing at AFA, for me, it was a huge sense of accomplishment. That, wow, you know, no matter what happened, we still made it.
Yeah, I could definitely say it was very challenging at first, working from home, because when you're in a classroom, you're kind of forced to do your work because what else would you do? And then when you have this whole day to do your work, it just is hard to gain that self-discipline. And I think I eventually got into a routine, but at first it was really difficult to create a schedule for myself, especially when I wasn't used to that and it just happened drastically.
I think too, one of the challenges was missing out on critiques from your classmates, especially, I mean, for me with painting, I rely on critiques from my classmates and teachers in my painting class. Like if I'm staring at it too long or I've been working on it too long, I'm not going to see things they might see. And I don't know if maybe I added this one brush stroke, it would make such a difference. And you don't think of that sometimes. You need someone else's opinion, or that was tricky.
As a glass artist, I completely lost access to the studio. So I did not have my own torch at home. I did not have any way to make my art. So it was kind of just this whole period of downtime where I really had to reflect on a lot of personal things, a lot of life things, and it kind of made me really appreciate the aspect of being able to go places in person. So overall, it was a good experience, but it was a very challenging one. I ended up staying at Keystone another year this year in order to be able to show my work and have this experience. I was intended to graduate last year, and leaving, putting so much work in and not being able to show any of it really broke my heart. So I made new arrangements. I took on taking a minor in biology and I stayed at Keystone. And having the show finally happen was absolutely incredible.
That is commitment. I did not realize that. My goodness. I just wanted to interrupt very briefly. We had a comment from Jess Bioni. Congratulations to all Keystone students on all your hard work. Everything was very professional. Well done. Thank you, Jess. Wow, Serena, that's a lot. I didn't mean to end this conversation. I just wanted to bring up Jess's comment before we moved on. Is there anyone? We have a comment from Evan Noble. You are all awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there anything on this conversation train of thought? Oh my goodness, we have more comments. Congratulations to everyone. All the work at the gallery is amazing. It truly is, Dr. Victor. Thank you very much. Is there any, I'm gonna pause because every time I seem to talk, a comment comes in. No, we're good. Is there any thing else on this train of thought, the challenges of getting this up and running, what you expected, and then versus what the reality was? Anything else on this topic that anyone wants to add to?
One of the challenges putting this all together was our class was fully remote. So all the work we put into it, the communication was email and Zoom, and half the time the connections were broken up. So it's really, like Maya said, it was so rewarding to see all that hard work, like our work up on those gallery walls, and then the crowd of people, like the support and the press we got. It's just like we worked really hard, and we overcame all these challenges with COVID and the stress of making sure we're on top of everything. And half the time we forget how lucky we are to have the show during a pandemic. So it's, you get stressed, but then when he kept reminding us, like, remember, like Serena went through what she went through last year, and we get this opportunity, and we're so thankful to AFA Gallery. Like, we had to keep grounding ourselves, and it's worth it, it's worth it. And then just the opening night, it's just, that feeling was so special.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kathleen, because it's so stressful. When you're first starting, you don't even think about the show. Honestly, when you first begin this, you're just trying to learn the techniques, do the homework, all the homework. And I got to tell you, I have a degree in science, microbiology. This art degree was way harder than my science degree, and I wasn't prepared. I was prepared, but I wasn't really expecting that. And so you're just totally just enmeshed in this process, and you don't think about it, and then all of a sudden, boom. What do you mean? The show is in a month. Oh my gosh. And then, like Kathleen and I, it seems like you and I were always on Zoom chat. Hey, did you get this? Hey, did you get that? Let's create this. Everybody, where's your work? It was challenging. It was a big sigh of relief when we installed. By that Sunday, I could go home, and I sat down. I went, okay, so what do I do now? It's all done.
I can imagine that would be.
It was something, because then, yeah, you still have homework for other classes, but there's not that same push of it has to look a certain way. It has to be this. It has to be that, because now it's going to be out for the world to see.
But I'm a little curious, just a side tangent. So you mentioned you already have a degree in biology, you said, microbiology?
Micro, yeah.
What prompted you, after having that very difficult, and challenging and rewarding degree, to now want to shift and achieve an art degree? What was that experience like, and why did you want to do that?
Well, my whole life, I've always been an artist, and this was the path I wanted to follow. But I know Kathleen can attest to this, and other people can too. Life takes you down different paths, and I didn't feel that I could support a family on an art degree. So I went into medicine instead. And by the time my kids were old enough that mom could immerse herself in school and be at the point where she could do what she wanted to do with her life fully, which was art and art therapy, then I jumped in, and it was tough. It was a lot more than I was expecting, because I was still working full time. I still have a clinic in Tunkhannock. I'm an acupuncturist. So it was challenging to do them both at the same time. But, you get to the point where you just want to do something different with your life, and you want to do, especially as a mom, or I speak for myself, I don't want to speak for other moms, but for myself as a mom, you put so much of yourself into your family and into others that you reach a point where you just want to put it into yourself. And that was the point I had gotten to. I just said, you know what? No, now it's my time and it's my turn. And I really want to do what I wanted to do my whole life.
Yeah.
So for me to get to this point, it was big. It's been a very long personal journey of fulfilling dreams to get to this point.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. And while everyone's, as you mentioned, everyone takes different paths, and those paths are either meticulously planned out and completely shift, or we make it up as we go. I'm curious to know whether, from a career perspective or just an artistic medium perspective, was there anyone here who entered the program with a particular medium or focus in mind, and then totally discovered a new form that they loved, have ran with? Or have you stuck with the same medium, the same artistic genre, but have made new discoveries along the way? I'd be curious to see what the mix of answers is going to be.
I started, I've been going to school for a long time. I had a child in the middle of my studies, so I had to take time off. But when I started, I went for ceramics at Marywood, and slowly realized there might not be a career in that, like a solid career, like a secure career. So I took time off and went back to school just for a visual arts major, and then established painting and drawing and a graphic design dual concentration, and kind of had to tell myself, listen, like graphic design might be a better route to take because there are more job opportunities. And that was hard. I love like the handwork and painting, and you could tell someone did something with their hands. I appreciate that so much in the arts. So one of my struggles throughout this whole journey in art school was transitioning over to the digital world and realizing that things have changed. You have to accept it and then learn all of that stuff. So I might not have wanted to learn new things, but having that dual concentration, and like Lexi has it too. I'm not as good as her in painting and drawing, but to be able to tackle those two things, it's pretty tough. And I don't know, I've never expected that's where I would end up when I started with ceramics.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that shifted their focus, or did you know your medium was the medium of your choice since the minute you began your first year at Keystone?
I switched. I found Keystone for wildlife biology, which is one of the reasons I decided to take on a minor this year in order to keep pursuing my glass work. But at first I thought I was going to do painting and drawing because glass is hard, and I didn't really understand it at first. It was kind of scary, not gonna lie. But over the course of all of the classes that I took, I just fell more and more in love with it, and it was a beast that I wanted to take head on. And I'm really happy that I did, because there's nothing I'd rather do.
I just want to comment, if I could, on that. I think I took Intro to Glass Blowing with you.
You did?
So for me, I was like too scared of it. So to see you go from that class to where you went was like so cool to experience. And like your work now, it's like being in the intro class with you, I'm like, oh my God, that's what I could have, if I went with it, like, look at all the stuff you're doing. It's just so cool to see.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Well, I decided to go to art school after high school because I honestly didn't know what else to do. I like to draw. That was pretty much it. I didn't have a plan at all. My freshman year, like if someone asked me, what do you want to do after you graduate? I wouldn't have been able to answer. I just knew I like drawing. Then I took some graphic design classes, and I think before college, I didn't really know what graphic design was. And then I learned that I had this eye for design, and I learned how to translate that into working with graphic design. And it was a huge learning experience because graphic design isn't just about design, it's about working with clients and, you know, putting things out into the world that people buy. And it's just a whole different side of the arts that I really grew to like fall in love with. But at the same time, like my heart lies with just drawing and painting. But then recently I sort of took on more of like an illustrator's perspective on that rather than like a fine art perspective. So I'm hoping when I graduate to sort of follow both of those paths, since I think they can go hand in hand a lot of the times. But I guess I think we had to like fill a certain amount of credits, and I was like, oh, graphic design sounds kind of cool, and that's where it all started. But yeah, that was my path.
Fantastic, thank you. Does anyone else want to share about what inspired them to go to Keystone specifically, or just art school in general? What was your initial interest? Has that stayed the same? Has that changed?
I started Keystone in 2015, and throughout my time here, I probably changed my major about 3 times because honestly, when I graduated high school, like you said, Lexi, I didn't really have much of a plan. I just knew I liked to draw. So I came to Keystone hopes that I can get an art degree. And then after I came to Keystone, all the changes really overwhelmed me from transitioning from high school to college. And I felt really lost, and I felt like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. So I ended up switching to psychology, and then I ended up switching back to visual art, and then I ended up switching into art education. And then I had to take a year off for mental health reasons. And it was just a whole big thing. But I got through it, and then I managed to kind of like, I guess, find myself a little bit. I don't know if I want to use that term, but I went through a lot, and I'm really proud of myself, and I'm really proud of everybody else because I know all of our journeys were really difficult, especially now. So, yeah.
For me, it was just, I knew I wanted to do graphic design when I graduated, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with graphic design. And since I started working with it, I found out probably like a year ago that I absolutely love web design and like making websites or like apps. And then last semester, I finally figured out what I really wanted to do, which like work at a zoo for graphic design. Because I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I don't like putting animals down. I also hate the one hard math class that I can't think of. And I feel like this would be a way for me to cheat around it.
I hear you. That's a perfect segue to my next question, which was post-graduation, May 25th, you will be free agents with your one or now second or third degree, specifically in art. Where do you go from here? And I obviously that's kind of a career-based question. I'm curious to know just anything in your lives, new directions you're taking, or established paths that you're going to continue to follow with your new Keystone College art degree in hand. I'd love to know. Or if you don't, and again, everything's so unpredictable right now, it's totally okay to say your thoughts, your goals, something you're going to look into in the next 6 months to a year or so. We have Greg, thank you so much. Shout out to Megan from before. who had a great comment while we were chatting. Yeah, I'm just curious to know what's next for any of you, or what do you think might be next, or what options are you looking into?
I just want to say, as graduating seniors and now professional artists going into the world, what a better way to bring us confidence than having such a successful show. I think that was a great send-off, just to know that we had such support and that our work was good enough to be in a show and have people come out and see it. So now moving forward, trying to put our art in the world, however we want to do that, that was just like positive reinforcement. For me, I think I'm going to apply to jobs for graphic design and do some kind of painting and drawing on the side, maybe open an Etsy shop or I have a minor in business, so there's always the chance of maybe starting my own business, but who knows?
I want to just jump in real quick. Thank you, Kathleen. I do want to mention, and thank you, Michael, to that comment. Yes, graduation is the beginning of an art career. Congratulations to all of you. I want to give everyone who's listening here a context from the gallery end of things. I know how incredibly, I don't want to say challenging and hard as if it wasn't rewarding or there weren't moments of fun, but how much work went in. It goes every year working with the Keystone College, and anytime Michael has a question. Do they plan for continuing education? Good stuff. I'm going to get to that in 1 second, Michael. Thank you so much. That's a really good question. But I just want to mention to everyone how much I know you all work so hard. I could see it on the back end. And we, yes, Colleen, they should be so proud. They are very talented. Sorry, everyone's just commenting so much, which is wonderful. I know how much work goes into this. I know how challenging it can be. I feel terrible for those of your peers last year who didn't have that opportunity. That would have been Serena had she not really made that initiative, and I appreciate that. I just want everyone to know that when they're talking about the challenges and how hard it is, having only seen it the last few months from a distance, via emails, a couple of Zoom meetings, briefly, Keystone very much takes the lead with itself. It's very independent. I coordinated with Winnie Harmon, who I want to give credit to, who was really wonderful to coordinate with from the gallery end. But it's very much, I know, a labor of love for many of you. And I want to congratulate all of you and those of you, your 3 peers who couldn't be with us tonight. We have a comment from Ben. Congratulations to everyone on the show. Amazing work. Ben, agreed. Let's go back to Michael's question, though. Do they plan for continuing education? And I think it's important for us to hold space and acknowledge that education can take many shape for many people in different ways. It's not always 4, or 6, or official master's or doctorate. Maybe it's just maybe it's taking master classes in a certain art field. Maybe it's getting back into yoga because you want to clear your mind more. But based on his question, I know what he's referencing. What are your plans for continuing education, if any?
Well, I guess I'll kind of intertwine this with the question of what you're doing after you graduate. So when I graduate, I really want to apply to an internship or a job at a design agency so I can learn from other designers and how the world of design works. And I also really want to pursue illustration as a career. So since I Keystone, the classes are based on fine art, painting, and drawing, I feel like I need a little more education on illustration in terms of advertising, and I was planning on taking a few classes on illustration, and I'm trying to get into digital drawing because that has really taken the illustration, so I was going to take some classes on that as well, so that I can pursue that as a career as well, because all the jobs I've got for illustration, they all want digital drawing, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to kind of merge those 2 things together and see where I go.
I'm also going to combine the 2 questions. Post-graduation, I'm going to be heading back to the Corning Museum of Glass. This is going to be my 3rd year working there. It would have been my 4th if COVID did not happen. But there I worked in the Make Your Own program, so I helped the public make glass. And then after that, I did try to apply to some classes over at Pilchuck Glass School in Washington. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they postponed their entire class schedule until next summer. So hopefully I'll get into something But then I'm also looking into going to Salem Community College in the fall. I'm just trying to figure out some financial stuff and the logistics really going there. Post that, I do hope to get into a master's program one day. I just want to learn a little bit more before then.
For me, continuing education would probably consist of maybe a class here or a class there, not necessarily going back full time. And as far as like graphic design, I know there's a lot of opportunities for courses online. And like you could get certificates for different things. I don't know if I want to do that, but like something like a master's degree for me isn't something I'm thinking about right now. And that's not because I have a small child, a 5-year-old, so I've been going to school for her whole life. So I kind of want a break so I could be with her in the evenings and not be working all the time. But it's not out of the question, I guess.
For myself, I'm going to be applying to graduate school for art therapy. And it's a combination of LPC and art therapist because I want to marry the two careers. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine, and there's so many principles of helping people to open up and open their heart and become who they're meant to be. And when you marry that with art therapy and the incredible healing that happens through just this nonverbal communication, the two of them just go so beautifully together that my husband and I have already started the process. He's a therapist as well. And we started the process of putting together a nonprofit to help people experience this form of healing. And we're going to attach to our clinic.
For me, I just plan to try to save up for a car first before I go out and into the world, I guess. But I'm just going to go and get a job, basically. I feel like when you're doing graphic design with the field, you learn things better compared to college where you're assigned homework. That's how I feel.
For me, I don't think going to graduate school is totally out of the question, but I'm also in art education and I really want to teach kindergarten through 4th grade. That would be my ideal age group. So I think after graduation, I immediately want to start looking for a job somewhere. I don't really want to relocate, but I guess that's not out of the question either. So anything could happen for me.
I just want to say, after hearing everyone talk about that, how cool it is to experience the journey of art school with everyone and then see how everyone is now at the end of it. Like, I know how good I feel that it's almost over and like the show's done with and we all got over all these struggles or whatever we had to go through to get here. It's like supportive in its own way to watch everybody else do it too. And we just had a great show and everyone's work, and Abby, like you said, you had to overcome things that I really wasn't aware of. And I wouldn't have known because you came, you worked, your paintings are great. Everyone's work was it was very cool process to go through with everybody, not just by yourself, as a group.
Honestly, I didn't know that our art class was going to be this big for graduation. I thought we only had 3 people.
Thank you all. My next question, which I can't remember who spoke to this, what has it been? What do you hope for amongst the 9 of you? I know there's only 6 present. I mean, that's something that's really cool that, in previous years, we've worked at Keystone College. It's a slightly larger group, and that's wonderful, but there's definitely something really special, especially because of the need for the virtual communication and the ability to be so adept and keep in contact, even if it's not in person. Do you all, this is kind of a cheesy question, but do you all plan on staying in touch? Do you have any group threads you're going to keep going? What has this, someone's already touched on it once or twice, but I'd really love to hone in on what has this sense of community been like? And I'm sure it hasn't been easy maintaining that given the social distance.
One of the things we had to do was make some kind of website or like a online portfolio so that at least I'll be creepy and creep on everyone's portfolios or Instagrams and work, because I respect each and every one of you as an artist and as a person. So I'm definitely going to continue to creep on you and probably talk to you. But I think it's great that we all created something we could put our artwork on. So if we want, maybe in a few years, we could look everybody up and see what they're up to and see what their work looks like then.
Yeah, I definitely think living in the age of social media is going to keep us all in contact no matter what. But I do hope to stay in contact with you guys because you guys are all really awesome. And I'm really happy that I got to meet and work with each and every one of you.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience watching everybody grow as an artist because, I met all of you guys. We all started at the same time. And just watching everybody morph and grow and change and mature and find their path, it's been quite an experience.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what everyone said. I think it's really cool how we have Instagram and all these things and LinkedIn and all that to see where everyone goes. And I'm just super excited to see where everyone ends up. Yeah.
Yeah, Kathleen, that was a good idea you had about keeping updated with everyone's websites. Because I know I don't have anyone's phone number in this class or anything, but I'm still really interested to see how everyone grows over the years and where life takes them and how their art changes or stays the same or stuff like that. So that's a good idea. I'm probably going to be creeping on everyone's websites too.
And it's important to stay together as a group or have that group mentality because you have to as an artist. Because we all experienced firsthand COVID and being out of the classroom and by ourselves. And for myself, sometimes it was really hard to get inspired because I kept staring at the same four walls in my studio and looking at a canvas and saying, okay, so what the hell do I do now? And not having that collective energy around you where you could bounce ideas off of people. And I think that all artists, when you finish school and suddenly you're set free, you don't have homework, you don't have assignments, and you have that blank canvas again, it's important to stay in contact with people that you can bounce ideas off of and just have that sense of community and camaraderie.
I know a few times Lexi and I exchanged things when we missed a critique or didn't have the opportunity. It's we kind of need that. I'm I just need someone to look at it that has an eye for design or an eye for something. I can't be the only one looking at this. So that was a hard thing.
Thank you. I'm going to just give everyone listening, first of all, thank you to the wonderful audience, Michael, Greg, Megan, Evan, Ty, every single person who's commented. Jess liked it. I want to remind the audience, if you have a specific question, like Michael did about the continuing education, we'd love to ask the artist a question. Please comment. This is sort of not last call, but last call is coming in a minute. And we really encourage you to please comment or ask any questions you have while we're still live. And you can always contact the gallery and we'd be happy to pass it along to the artist if it's after the fact. So that's part one. Part two is, this is typically the question I end with when we do this weekly. And through the Fringe Festival, we've been doing this for almost a year now on a, not weekly. Since 2021, we've been doing it weekly with, I think, only 3 weeks we've missed since the start of the year. What I ask everyone though is, regardless of what industry or field you're in, and it's typically the arts or the creative arts, cultural industry, everyone has been affected by this pandemic. Everyone has had some major life shift, most for the worse and challenging, a few people, oddly enough, for the better. I'm curious to know, what has been your personal coping mechanisms? What has been your version of, for lack of a better term, self-care? We've touched a lot on the challenges of your unique experience under COVID. So whether it's from an artist perspective or just you yourself as a human being, I'd love to know what your methods for self-care and overall mental health well-being are during this challenging time. And anyone can go at any time.
Okay, I'll start off. I do a couple different things. I found cooking very therapeutic in order to just like make a lot of extravagant things and kind of find some fun in that. And then I also participate in flow arts. So I dance with different props, like specifically a hula hoop, but a couple other things. But I also find that very meditative. So that helps ground me a lot. And going outside on walks also really helped during this time, as long as the parks weren't closed. There was like maybe like a couple weeks during the pandemic that all of the state parks were closed, and that entirely broke my heart. But once they opened back up, I was hanging out in my hammock reading books like every single day, and that was extremely lovely.
For me, ironically enough, the pandemic was helpful for me. I kind of got my life back on track at the beginning of last year. I started going to the gym, and then a month later it closed, and I was terrified I was going to lose any of the progress I made. So before all the gym equipment went off the shelves, I got a couple weights and worked out every single day because the weather started getting nice and I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, I want to keep doing this, and it's like me time. So I think that's another important thing that I realized: when you're home all the time and you're in the same environment, doing different things, but in the same environment, it's important to put aside time that you're doing one thing different that's specific to what you need. And for me, happened to be exercise. And also for me, I'm a parent with a 5-year-old, so it's really hard to get me time. And especially in a pandemic when you're with them all the time and you're trying to entertain them. But for me, it was like realizing you have to find time to do one thing maybe that takes your mind off everything else.
For me, I found that I went back into meditation, even just 5-minute micro meditations. But at the same time, I also had to close my clinic in the beginning of the pandemic. So we were shut for almost 4 months. And that was a real jolt to not be in the classroom, not be working, which was something that I had not experienced in probably 20 plus years. And it was good for me because honestly, I needed the downtime, and I was able to explore like Art Students League. I was able to take more classes online with them. I was able to spend a lot more time with my family, get back into the kitchen and do things that we hadn't had time to do, just get together as a collective and, binge watch a series or do fun things that, you miss doing, because when you step out of the one role, like me, being mom, to now being a student in addition to working, and then having the opportunity to step back into that, for me, that was so beneficial for my mental health, just to be able to reconnect with my family like I hadn't been able to do for so long.
I feel like for me during the pandemic, I was like, well, you have no excuse anymore. You have to draw every day. So I really got into the habit of doing that, because otherwise I would find myself doing nothing, and that made me feel really terrible. So getting into the practice of drawing all the time and exploring things that I normally didn't have the time for was really awesome, because I think it helped me now maintain like consistency, and I could do really cool things with my time that I normally didn't have, like on a lunch break, go draw at the park or go drive out to the art store that's like 2 hours away and get a bunch of really cool materials and experiment. And I think getting into the habit of being consistent and drawing every day helped transform my art, because I didn't really like, it was just bound to happen if I was making myself do that. And then I also really got into running, because if I was sitting down and drawing all day, I felt like I had to get outside, and it was a really cool way to explore the town around me that I hadn't really done before. I would run in like the most random areas, especially since like I plan on leaving the area when I graduate, and I felt like I really got to know where I lived a lot better just by being outside and looking at every little street and like nook and cranny. And I went on a lot of drives just because it was really therapeutic and just exploring this area around me that before I just went to the same places, did the same thing, and didn't really appreciate where I was.
For me, I've had so much fun being lazy. I got to be able to binge watch a bunch of anime, read a bunch of mangas and everything, enjoy my time on when I didn't work, just to go to like antique stores with my family and friends. And just love my animals. I didn't really do much. I just enjoyed my time, basically.
Yeah, honestly, I think the start of the pandemic, like, it was scary, but at the same time, being home made my introverted heart very happy. Just being able to just kind of be home just with my family and be able to sit in the dark and play video games and eat snacks. Like, I never ever had time to do anything like that before that. And it was kind of a shock, but I really enjoyed it. And then that was really helpful for me, because then after I took some time really just for myself, just to relax and step back from all this work, um, then I was able to just be like, okay, I had my fun, it felt really good, but now I feel like I'm in a much better headspace now because I had some time to just step back and relax a little bit.
That's a perfect way to describe the pandemic.
I
Now we're
agree
ready
with
to
you,
go
Abby.
back and we're refreshed and we're like, we got all that out. Okay, let's get to work.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was an introvert's paradise. My husband's extremely extroverted and I'm extremely introverted. So it was driving him crazy and I was just loving every minute of it in the beginning.
Fantastic. Honestly, I feel like that's a great place to end. Are there any parting words, my friends? We had a question from someone, what inspired you all to get your art degree? I feel like we kind of touched on that earlier, but if anyone wants to comment to that, please do so. So this is sort of like last call, open forum. Is there anyone here, of our artists, who there's a point we haven't touched on or something that someone said before you've been meaning to reference and add your comment to? Anything at all you want to add before we go?
I want to add the importance of really following your dreams. And I can't emphasize that enough. And every day in my clinic, I'm always saying that to people, but I'm living proof of it. And if you have that dream, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. It's your dream. And you need to do it. You need to do what makes you happy. And if art or anything makes you happy, then you have to do it.
Love is the motivator.
I agree. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank all of our artists. I want to thank the artists here, the 3 artists who could not join us. The exhibit Becoming, the 2021 Keystone College Senior Exhibition, is still on display at AFA Gallery in downtown Scranton. You can join us there Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We were there if you have 3 more weekends, April 15th through the 17th, 22nd through the 24th, and 29th through May 1st. And again, we will be video documenting it thanks to our friends at Park Multimedia. So if you're out of the area or you're still staying home and you're still keeping distant, we respect that. And there will be virtual options forever to tour this exhibit. I want to thank all the artists one more time. I want to thank everyone who makes AFA Gallery's work possible. Please join us next month for our next exhibit and every month after that. We have last 2 comments from Michael. Thank you for sharing. And from Greg. Great work / exhibition, everyone. I couldn't say it better, Greg, so we're going to leave it there. Good night. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.